Sod Ellis had always wanted to see the world, but Abu Dhabi had never been on her list. Her dream cities were Rome, Paris, and Cape Town, places that felt familiar, places that made sense. But sometimes, life offers a destination you didn't ask for, and you either say yes or regret it forever. The call came out of nowhere. A luxury resort in Abu Dhabi needed a high-fashion model immediately. The money was unbelievable. Flights, hotel, food, all expenses covered. She didn't even think twice before accepting. When she arrived, the heat wrapped around her like a velvet glove. The air smelled of oud and saffron. The roads were lined with marble, the buildings glittered like diamonds in the sun, and sleek luxury cars moved silently past fountains shaped like gold. She felt both amazed and slightly out of place. Her hotel suite was massive, with floor-to-ceiling windows offering a view of the city that didn't feel real. She tried to rest but couldn't. Something in the air buzzed, something bigger than modeling, bigger than work. The next morning, she walked into the studio, ready to prove herself. Cameras paused, stylists stared. She wasn't sure if they were surprised, impressed, or confused. Sod was tall, dark-skinned, with glowing brown eyes and natural coils she wore like a crown. Her green gown shimmered under the lights, but she could feel some eyes questioning why she had been chosen. She pushed through the shoot like a pro. But during a break, needing to breathe, she stepped onto the balcony. The skyline stretched endlessly, and in the distance, a call to prayer echoed. Softly across the buildings, she closed her eyes, trying to center herself. That's when she sensed it. A presence. She turned her head and saw a man at the far edge of the rooftop. He wore a long white kandura, perfectly pressed, and leaned against a black sports coupe. His skin was rich brown, his beard shaped to perfection, his eyes quiet and commanding. He spoke softly on the phone in Arabic, his voice calm and deliberate. When he noticed her watching, he ended the call and looked directly at her. She held his gaze, unsure why. He walked toward her like he owned time itself. "You're not from here," he said. She smiled faintly. "Neither are you, I bet." He laughed. "I'm Malik, Sod," she replied, shaking his hand. His grip was warm and sure. "Sod," he repeated slowly. Strong name. She didn't know what to say next. Her mind flashed back to warnings. Arab men don't look at women like us, don't love like we do, don't respect what we bring. Yet here he was, not just looking, but seeing her. "You modeling for the resort?" he asked. "Fashion campaign? A few weeks. You'll cause a storm in this city," he said. She tilted her head, half smiling. "Is that a compliment or a warning?" He shrugged. "Depends on how you handle storms." She laughed, surprised by her own comfort with him. Then, he said, "I know what people say about men here, but not all of us think the same." She paused. "You don't even know what I've heard. I can guess. That we don't respect black women, that we only love our own kind, that we look at you like you're less. Maybe some do, but some of us see something different." His words caught her off guard. He glanced at his phone again, then back at her. "I'd like to show you the city beyond the stories, if you're open to it." Before she could answer, his phone buzzed again. He gave a soft sigh and stepped back. "I have to go," he said. "But I hope this isn't the last time we speak." He disappeared down the stairs, leaving nothing but the memory of his voice and the strange electricity in the air. Sod stood still, unsure what had just happened. She had come to Abu Dhabi for work, for money, for images on a magazine cover. She hadn't come for men. She definitely hadn't come for feelings. And yet, standing there with the city shimmering around her, she felt something shift. Maybe this wasn't going to be the trip she expected. Maybe this was the beginning of something she never could have imagined. The next morning, Sod arrived at the shoot early. The location had changed. This time, it was a private rooftop terrace with a panoramic view of Abu Dhabi's skyline. The sky was blinding blue, and the wind lifted her curls, gently as stylists pinned gowns worth more than her annual salary. She should have been focused. The campaign was the biggest of her career. but her mind kept drifting to the man in white silk Malik. His voice still echoed in her ears, and his words refused to leave her alone. "You don't know what people say." "I can guess." She was used to flirtation, to compliments, even to men with power, but Malik had said things that unsettled her in a way that felt like awakening. He didn't chase her. He didn't gawk. He just spoke to her like she mattered. As she adjusted her pose under the spotlight, the photographer called out directions in French-accented English. The crew hovered around her, some throwing admiring glances, others whispering too quietly. To hear, she was used to being looked at, but this felt different. She wasn't sure if they saw her beauty or were confused by her presence. When the midday sun reached its peak, they called for a break. Sod moved toward the shade, pulled out her phone, and began scrolling just to escape her thoughts. That's when a notification popped up on Instagram. New message from Malik. RASHAN. Her heart paused. She hadn't given him her social media, but she wasn't surprised. A man like that didn't need introductions, he just appeared where he wanted to be. Malik, I hope your first day went well. Sod stared at the message, smiling without realizing it. Her fingers hesitated, then typed back. Sod, it was okay, just work. Seconds later, another message appeared. Malik, work can wait. You need to see the real city. Let me take you to dinner tonight. Sod blinked at the screen. Her thumb hovered over the keyboard. She didn't do this. She wasn't the kind of girl who let strangers take her out in foreign countries. And yet, she couldn't deny it. She was intrigued. Sod, I don't know. I'm here to stay focused. His reply was instant. Malik, just one dinner. No pressure. She stared at his message, then typed slowly. Sod, where? Malik, I'll send a driver. 8 p.m. She exhaled, the decision sinking in. She had just said yes to something she'd promised herself she wouldn't do. Dinner with a man she barely knew. And not just any man, but one who carried power like it lived in his bloodstream. At exactly 8 p.m., a black SUV arrived outside her hotel. The driver stepped out, tall, polite, dressed in a sharp navy kandura, and opened the door for her. Like she was royalty, the ride was silent, smooth, almost cinematic. When they arrived, Sod's eyes widened. It wasn't a regular restaurant. It was an open-air rooftop garden draped in golden lights, with chandeliers suspended over white linen tables. Arabic music hummed through hidden speakers, and in the distance, the Burj Khalifa towered like a watchful giant. And there he was. Malik stood near the entrance, dressed in a tailored black suit, the collar embroidered with gold. His presence absorbed the space around him. You came, he said as she approached, his eyes steady, his smile subtle. I almost didn't, she said softly. But you did, he replied. That's what matters. As they sat down, Sod felt something inside her shift. This wasn't just dinner. This was a line she had crossed. And deep down, she knew it was the beginning of something she could no longer control. The rooftop dinner was the kind of night that felt borrowed from another woman's story. Sod sat across from Malik under soft golden lights, the table filled with rich Middle Eastern dishes she couldn't pronounce but pretended to recognize. Everything around her glowed, from the glass of pomegranate juice in her hand to the way his eyes locked on hers like he was studying something sacred. Malik didn't ask typical first date questions. He didn't want to know her favorite movie or her star sign. Instead, he asked about her childhood in Johannesburg, her first time walking a runway. The moment she realized she was beautiful in a world that often tried to convince her otherwise. His voice was calm, his energy quiet, but strong. When he listened, he leaned in just slightly, as if her words deserved gravity. For the first time in a long while, Sod felt seen without being measured. By the end of the night, he didn't touch her. He didn't lean in for a kiss or ask to come upstairs. He simply walked her to the car, held the door open, and said, "Let me know when you want to see the real city." And that was how it started. Not with seduction, not with games, with curiosity. Over the next few weeks, Malik became a constant presence. He sent flowers to her hotel suite, always with handwritten notes. Short phrases that felt like poetry from a man who didn't try to impress but simply told the truth. You were unforgettable, in green your voice, stayed with me next time. Let your hair out here invited her to a private island for a sunset picnic, and she said yes without hesitation. The sand was warm under her bare feet. He had a yacht waiting nearby, but they didn't board it. They just sat on the shore, talking as the waves curled at their ankles. He never bragged, but his world unfolded around her like a secret. The cars, the access, the invitations to places she didn't know existed. He took her shopping, not in malls but in hidden boutiques, where everything was made by hand and cost more than she had ever made in a month. He never told her to wear anything specific, but he would quietly admire her choices. When she wore a red satin dress to a gallery opening, he leaned in and whispered, "You look like a fire people should be afraid to touch." Sod laughed and looked away, but inside she was burning. His affection wasn't loud, but it was heavy. It didn't feel like flattery. It felt like ownership without force. By the end of her third week in Abu Dhabi, the campaign had wrapped. The modeling job was over. The resort had their photos. The contract was complete. But Sod didn't book a flight home. She was no longer in the city as a visitor. She was staying for something that had nothing to do with work. She posted a photo on Instagram, a shot of her hand on the edge of a yacht, with Abu Dhabi skyline in the background. The caption was short. "Didn't expect this," the comments exploded. At Zoblak Barbie sis, "That water looks rich." At Coco Travel Queen, "That man got you glowing." At Official Kachi, "If he's Arab, and fine." Say that at shae.slay. "Just don't lose yourself out." There, Queen but Sod wasn't worried. Malik had shown her nothing but softness. Nothing but calm. Nothing but the kind of affection that made her forget the warnings and the whispers. And so when he turned to her one evening on the rooftop of his private villa and said, "Have you ever thought about staying for good?" she didn't answer. Immediately, she just smiled and looked up at the stars, because yes, she had, and maybe she already had. The decision to stay wasn't official. No contracts were signed, no suitcases packed or shipped. But every day Sod woke up in Malik's penthouse instead of her hotel room. The city felt less like a destination, and more like her new reality. He never asked her to move in. He just made space for her. A closet was cleared for her dresses. A drawer filled with silk lingerie in colors he said complemented her skin. Her favorite South African teas appeared in the kitchen. His house staff greeted her with soft smiles, as if she'd always belonged. The life was unreal. Private chefs, spa treatments at home, a driver always on standby, and Malik always watching, always complimenting, always near. In public, he was gentle and doting. He opened doors, guided her with a hand on the small of her back, introduced her to people with pride in his voice. "My Sod," he'd say, "not just my girlfriend. Not just my woman. Mine." At first, she loved it. After years of building herself up in an industry that tried to break her down, it felt powerful to be chosen by someone who seemed untouchable. A man who wasn't afraid to be seen loving a black woman in a world that rarely celebrated that kind of romance. But slowly, things started shifting. It began with a suggestion. "You don't need to post so much," Malik said one morning as she took a selfie on the terrace. "Our life doesn't need to be shared with strangers." She laughed, thinking he was teasing. But that evening, he repeated it again. Then came the clothes. Malik walked into the room one afternoon holding a black silk abaya and a matching headscarf. "I had this made for you," he said. "You would look breathtaking in it." Sod hesitated. She'd always worn what made her feel like herself: bold colors, African prints, sharp silhouettes. This was soft, flowing, conservative. Beautiful, yes, but not her. Still, she tried it on. He stood behind her and kissed her shoulder. "Now you look like a queen." The compliments became rules. The rules became expectations. "You don't need to go to brunch with those models. They're not your level. I don't like you walking around without a driver." What if something happened? You're too friendly with people who don't know how to respect you. At first, she thought he was just being protective. That maybe it was cultural. That maybe love meant adjusting. But soon her phone stayed silent more often. Her friends stopped calling. She began skipping video chats with her sister. Even her mother's messages went unread for days. She wasn't lonely. Not exactly. Malik was always there. And yet, she missed herself. The carefree girl who wore her hair out in tight curls, who laughed too loud at brunch, who danced barefoot in her kitchen. That version of Sod had gone quiet. In her place was someone new, someone polished, elegant, perfectly wrapped in designer fabric, always flawless on Malik's arm. A woman who smiled in public and spoke less and less in private. One evening, she looked at herself in the mirror before a dinner party. She was stunning. Her makeup was soft and precise. Her wig was styled in long waves that brushed her waist. Her dress, modest but tailored, hugged her hips just right. But something in her eyes looked unfamiliar, as if the girl staring back at her wasn't pretending, but had actually become someone else, and Sod didn't know whether to feel proud or afraid. The whispers came quietly, like wind slipping through cracks in a window. Sod didn't notice at first. She was too wrapped up in the illusion, the brunches, the spa days, the rooftop dinners with billionaires who spoke 6 languages and kissed her cheek like she belonged beside them. Her Instagram bloomed with curated moments, perfect outfits, golden sunsets, captions dripping with soft mystery. People called her goals. A black girl living like royalty. But something shifted the night Malik returned late from a gala. Sod hadn't been invited. He said it was business only, she believed. She always did, until she opened Instagram and saw a photo on a gossip blog. Malik in a tailored grey suit, smiling beside a woman in a gold dress. She was breathtaking, with soft brown skin, delicate eyes, and a presence that screamed importance. The caption struck harder than the image. Malik Rashan spotted with rumored second wife at elite charity. Galasod's hand went cold around her phone. Second wife. The words made her stomach tighten. Her breath shortened. She tried to calm herself. Maybe it was a lie, just a headline, but her gut knew better. She dialed him. Her fingers trembled. Before the call connected, she heard the front door unlock. He walked in like nothing was wrong, set his keys on the marble counter, and removed his cufflinks slowly. She stood there waiting, her phone still in her hand, her chest rising too fast. Who is she? She asked. Malik looked up casually. Sod. Let's sit down. I don't want to sit, she said. He poured himself a drink and turned toward her. You're upset over a blog post, he said. She stared. So, it's true. He took a sip, then met her eyes. Yes. It hit like a slap. She backed up a step. You married another woman, she said. He didn't flinch. It's my right. Sod's voice cracked. You're right. He walked closer, reaching for her hand, but she pulled away. I gave you everything, she said. I left my life. I let you change me. He sighed. You still have everything, he said. You live in luxury. You're adored. I don't want to be adored, she snapped. I want to be respected. I want to be enough. He tilted his head slightly. If you loved me, you'd understand, he said. Her whole body tensed. No, she whispered. If you loved me, you wouldn't have done this. He looked at her with the same calm expression he always wore, like nothing rattled him, like she was overreacting. Nothing changes for you, he said softly. But Sod knew everything had already changed. She looked at the man she thought she'd known. The man who had once made her feel chosen, protected, beautiful. Now he stood in front of her with someone else's scent still clinging to his clothes, telling her that nothing had changed, and maybe for him, it hadn't. But for her, everything had cracked. Everything she believed, everything she had given up. Now, she finally saw the cost. Days passed after the truth came out, but the silence between them remained untouched. Sod didn't leave. She didn't pack a suitcase or slam a door. She stayed in Malik's mansion, wore the same designer gowns, sat at the same marble table for breakfast, and smiled at the same chefs who greeted her with quiet reverence. But something inside her had gone quiet. The girl who once felt powerful in his presence now felt invisible. Malik continued as if nothing had happened. He still kissed her forehead when he walked in, still brought her jewelry from Milan and perfumes from Paris, still posted carefully crafted images of them on social media. The perfect couple in the perfect home, and the world still believed it. On Instagram, Sod looked like a dream. She posted videos of herself cooking barefoot in the kitchen, wearing soft silk robes and diamond earrings. She went live, laughing gently as she stirred pots of creamy pasta or saffron rice. Her captions were filled with affection. "My husband loves my food. Cooking for the king of my heart." The comments rolled in like waves. At Life with Trin. "I'm copying your recipes, sis." At Glopule, "This is the life we're praying for." At Africa to Dubai, "Your man spoils you, right?" At Softla Fashioness, "You're the blueprint." Queen But no one saw what happened after the camera went off. The house was too quiet, too wide, too cold. Malik had stopped coming home some nights. When he did, he offered vague explanations. Business meetings, important people. Sod never argued anymore. She simply nodded and accepted the silence like it was part of the job. She had everything a woman was supposed to want. The closet was overflowing. Her nails were always perfect. Her skin glowed under custom facials. The chandeliers sparkled like stars. But her laughter was practiced. Her smile was a costume. Every day she played the role of the perfect wife in a life so polished it felt fake. Sometimes, late at night, she would scroll through old photos of herself before Malik, before Abu Dhabi, before lace wigs and private jets. Back when her curls were wild, her skin bare, her smile careless. She missed that girl. But where would she go now? Back to South Africa, back to cramped apartments and small jobs. Back to being a face in the crowd instead of a woman everyone envied. Number 1 warned her that being a queen could feel so much like being a prisoner, so she stayed. She adjusted her hijab, touched up her lip gloss, turned on the camera, and smiled. Because leaving meant losing everything, and staying meant losing herself. Sod sat in front of her vanity, the glow of ring lights reflecting in the mirror. Her wig was styled perfectly, curls cascading over her shoulders. Her skin gleamed from hours of pampering. The diamond bracelet on her wrist caught the light with every small movement. Everything was in place. The camera was set. She pressed record. "Hey guys, welcome back to my page," she said with a practiced smile. "Today, I'm making one of Malik's favorite dishes, creamy butter chicken with saffron rice." The comments came instantly. At Golden Glow Girl, "Sis, your kitchen is goals." At Mrs. Worldwide, "You look happier every week." At Lavish Lily, "I keep saying it. You're living the dream." At Soft Spoken Queen, "Your life is everything's." Ad laughed lightly, stirring the sauce. Her voice was warm, her tone playful. "Ladies, when you marry right, you live soft, like me," she said. But behind the soft, her hands trembled. The mansion was silent. Malik hadn't come home in 2 nights. His only message had been a brief text. "Busy with work. Rest well." She knew better. She knew exactly where he was, with the other wife. With the one who looked like royalty in gold. And still, here she was, cooking food he wouldn't eat. Smiling for people who didn't know the truth. Pretending she was the luckiest woman alive, when in reality, she had never felt so alone. She plated the food beautifully. Took a few pictures, recorded a final clip. At the dining table. "I hope you guys try this at home. Malik loves it. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe." She ended the video, then sat there in silence. The food grew cold. Her chest felt tight. She opened Instagram, scrolled past her latest post, perfect lighting, flawless smile, hearts flooding in, and opened her camera again. This time, she didn't force a smile. "Ladies," she said softly, "never envy anyone." Her eyes flicked to the side, like she was thinking whether to say more. She leaned in. "Behind the videos, behind the posts, a lot is happening that you don't see." Her voice cracked at the edges. She paused, staring at her reflection, looking for the girl she used to be. But she wasn't there. Only the crown remained, and it was heavy. She ended the live. The comments kept coming. At Royal Ray. I'm manifesting your life. At Butterfly Bell. This is what real winning looks like. At Duba Diaries. Queen of Queensard. Turned off the lights. She walked through the giant house barefoot, each step echoing off the marble. She passed the gold vases, the chandeliers, the velvet furniture, and when she finally reached the bedroom, she sat on the edge of the bed and whispered to herself the words she hadn't dared speak aloud. I have everything. And yet, I have nothing. Outside, the city sparkled. Inside, she faded.